Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're getting into something fascinating, not just looking at genius, but actually uh, trying to understand the underlying structure, the how-to of communication and influence.
That's right. We're focusing on the work of Milton H. Erickson, the psychiatrist, but specifically through the models built by Richard Bandler and John Grinder.
Because Erickson himself, well, he was incredibly effective, right? But apparently, he couldn't quite explain how he did what he did.
Exactly. He often said he just knew intuitively. So Bandler and Grinder took on this huge task: watch him, listen to him, and create explicit maps or, models of his behavior.
Almost like linguists mapping a language. They wanted the rules, the patterns.
Precisely. And the starting point for all of this, the core idea you absolutely need to grasp, is this: the map is not the territory.
Okay. Sounds simple, but unpack that a bit.
It just means we don't experience reality directly. We experience our representation of reality, our internal map. And everyone's map is slightly different.
And understanding how those maps are built, that's the key to understanding influence and change.
That's the idea. Our maps differ from the actual territory because of three constant filtering processes. These happen all the time, mostly unconsciously.
All right, let's break down these filters. What's the first one?
The first is deletion. We just can't process everything.
Yeah.
Think about all the sensory input right now: sounds, sights, feelings. We'd be overloaded.
So we delete most of it. We have to.
We have to. But the problem comes when we delete something crucial. Maybe the nuance in someone's tone of voice or, feedback that we need. That leads to an impoverished map.
Got it. So deletion cuts things out. What's the second filter?
Distortion. This is where we twist or change our sensory experience.
Like when I'm sure I parked on level 3, but I'm actually on level 5.
Huh. Yeah, that's one kind. But it's also crucial for creativity, fantasizing, planning for the future that involves distorting present reality to imagine something different.
Okay, so distortion changes things. And the third?
Generalization. This is about efficiency. One experience stands in for a whole category. Like knowing how to open a door you've never seen before because you've generalized from past doors.
Makes sense. We learn patterns.
Yeah, but overgeneralization is where the limits come in. I always fail at public speaking, or people never listen to me. Those are generalizations that lock us down.
Deletion, distortion, generalization.
Yeah.
Okay, so how does this connect to language, which was the model Bandler and Grinder used?
They drew heavily from linguistics, specifically the idea of deep structure versus surface structure. Think of language as our most easily studied representational system.
Surface structure. That's just the words we actually say or write.
Exactly. Like the sentence, "The window was broken." That's the surface structure.
Okay, so what's the deep structure?
The deep structure is the full meaning, including everything that got deleted to make the surface sentence. For "the window was broken," the deep structure implicitly contains someone or something that did the breaking, maybe how it was broken.
Ah, I see. Even though the sentence doesn't say who broke it, we intuitively know someone or something must have. Our brain fills that gap from the deeper level.
Precisely. That deleted information is still part of the underlying meaning.
Yeah.
And this understanding that there's more going on than just the surface words leads us straight to Erickson.
Right, because he seemed acutely aware of these multiple levels of perception.
Absolutely. He knew communication wasn't just conscious words. There's a famous example of an actor, Frank Bacon.
Oh, yeah.
Apparently, just by varying his tone and timing for the single word no, he could convey something like 16 different meanings on stage, from a flat refusal to a subtle maybe or even yes.
Wow, 16 meanings and a no.
So Erickson tapped into that nonverbal, often unconscious channel.
That was his playground. Which brings us to a core technique for inducing trance, pacing the client's experience.
Casing, like matching their rhythm.
Kind of. It means making sure your statements accurately describe what the client is actually experiencing right now. You start by pacing what's observable.
Things you can see or hear. Yeah. Acute observation is key. If you notice they're breathing deep and slightly on the inhale, and maybe their hand lifts a tiny bit, you time your words.
And your hand is lifting.
Exactly. You match it perfectly. The client's unconscious mind registers, wow, this person really sees what's happening. It builds immense rapport.
Okay, that makes sense for things you can see. But what about internal feelings or thoughts? How do you pace the non-observable experience?
Ah, that's where it gets clever. You use language that lacks a specific reference, vague language.
Like,
Saying something like, and you can become aware of a certain sensation, or I know that you're wondering.
But how do you know they're wondering or feeling a certain sensation?
You don't need to know the specifics.
Yeah.
Everyone is always experiencing some sensation or having some thought or question. The client's own mind automatically takes your vague phrase and applies it to whatever's happening internally.
Whoa, so they filled in the blanks themselves, confirming you're still in sync with them.
It's incredibly effective. They do the work of validating the connection.
Okay, so you've paced them, built rapport. How do you then link that accepted reality X to the change you want to facilitate Y?
Through linguistic linkages.
Yeah.
Basically, connecting statements in ways that imply causality, even if it's not strictly logical. There are different strengths.
What's the simplest?
Simple conjunction,
Mhm.
just using and. Like,
Yeah.
you are sitting there listening to my voice,
Yeah.
and you are relaxing more and more. It just links two things happening together.
Okay, pretty gentle. What's stronger?
The implied causative, using words like as or while. So, as you continue to listen, you will find yourself relaxing even more deeply. It suggests a connection, a correlation.
Right. One thing happens while or as the other happens.
And the strongest linkage is direct cause effect.
Using words like makes or causes.
Yes, listening to the sound of my voice will cause you to drift into a state of deep relaxation.
Mhm.
Now, consciously, we might question that logic, but in a state of rapport and focused attention.
The mind tends to accept the suggested link.
It often does. It helps direct the client's experience very effectively.
But people resist direct commands, right? How did Erickson handle that?
Brilliant ways. Indirectness was key. One method is conversational postulates.
Okay, what's that?
It's phrasing a command as a question about ability. Instead of saying, close the door, you ask, can you close the door?
And people usually just do it.
Almost always. They respond to the implied command, not the literal question about their physical capacity to close a door. Resistance just doesn't get triggered.
Clever. What else?
Presuppositions. These are sneaky.
Yeah.
You embed the desired state or action within the structure of a sentence. So to even process the sentence, you have to accept the embedded part as true.
Give me that classic example again.
Are you aware that you're going into trance? Or, I wonder if you'll notice how quickly you relax. The main question is about awareness or noticing, but
It presupposes the trance or the relaxation is already happening.
exactly. It puts the conscious mind in a bind. Challenging the presupposition is difficult.
And there is one more. Bundling things together.
Yes. The lesser included structure. Making the desired action part of a larger, seemingly connected task.
Like the story about Erickson's daughter and the medical exams.
Perfect example. She was a medical student. Patients often refuse rectal or hernial exams, so she didn't ask directly.
What did you do?
She'd say, sympathetically, something like, as soon as I finish the rectal and hernial examinations, you can say goodbye to me.
So the unpleasant task, the exam, was presented as just the thing you do right before the pleasant task, saying goodbye. It's packaged together.
And apparently, they'd always wait patiently to say goodbye. It's much harder psychologically to refuse the whole package than two separate requests.
These techniques all build towards this really subtle form of communication, which leads us to the interspersal technique. This seems like the ultimate in indirectness.
It really is. The idea here is that this specific hypnotic induction, the words used to get attention, might be completely irrelevant to the therapy itself. It just creates the setting.
Like a distraction for the conscious mind.
Pretty much. The therapy happens by guiding the person's own potential, often while talking about something totally different. The case of Joe the florist is the classic illustration.
Right. Joe was terminally ill, in severe pain, and very resistant to doctors, let alone hypnosis.
Extremely resistant.
Yeah.
So Erickson needed to capture his attention and bypass that conscious hostility completely.
And he chose to talk about not pain relief, not acceptance.
Nope. He talked at length about growing a tomato plant. Soil, roots, water, sunlight. Seemingly pointless rambling.
The same topic he'd used before with someone else entirely.
Exactly. It was a vehicle. While Joe's conscious mind was occupied, probably thinking, what on earth is this guy talking about? Erickson was doing something else.
He was interspersing the real messages.
Yes. Embedded within the tomato talk were suggestions for comfort, relaxation, deep sleep, pain control, even specific things like bladder control, which was a major issue for Joe.
How did he mark those messages so the unconscious would pick them up?
Through analogical marking. Subtle shifts in tone, tempo, maybe a slight pause, a different facial expression, nonverbal cues that flagged certain words or phrases for the unconscious mind.
So consciously, Joe hears about tomatoes, but unconsciously, he's getting messages about comfort and healing.
That's the model. And the result was extraordinary. Joe's wife found him later in a deep trance. He achieved the bladder control goal, holding urine for hours, and his pain significantly reduced.
And what did Joe remember consciously?
Only the confusing, long-winded story about the tomato plant. The conscious mind was bypassed. The unconscious got the instructions and acted on them.
It really highlights the split, doesn't it, between conscious awareness and these other processing levels.
Definitely. Which naturally leads to thinking about the brain itself. Why does this work? Why this split? It points towards cerebral asymmetry.
The idea that the two hemispheres of the brain function differently.
Right. Very broadly, the dominant hemisphere, usually the left, handles language, logic, analysis, sequential processing.
And the non-dominant hemisphere, often the right.
That's more associated with visualization, spatial awareness, melody, recognizing patterns, synthesis, more holistic processing. Hypnosis is often seen as a way to access and communicate more directly with this non-dominant side.
How can you tell if you're accessing that side? You mentioned visualization.
There's a difference people report. If I ask you to image a picture, you might get a vague sense, maybe some internal words describing it. That's often more dominant hemisphere activity.
Okay.
But if you truly see a picture, vividly, clearly, almost like it's projected internally, often without any internal chatter accompanying it, that's thought to be more non-dominant hemisphere engagement.
Ah, interesting. Is that why counting sometimes works in inductions? Because you visualize the numbers?
That's one theory, yes. It shifts focus towards that visual spatial processing. Melody is another route. The non-dominant hemisphere is strongly linked to processing music. Telling someone to recall or imagine a melody can be very effective.
And the language used, it might need to be simpler to communicate with that side.
Potentially, yes. Less complex syntax, perhaps closer to what linguists sometimes call universal grammar, or the basic structures found in early language acquisition. Simple, direct, maybe more imagistic language.
So pulling all this together, these patterns, the linkages, presuppositions, pacing, analogical marking, they're all ways of working with the client's own mental processes, right? They're deletion, distortion, generalization.
Exactly. They leverage how the client already builds their map of reality. The goal is to achieve what Bandler and Grinder called maximal direction.
Maximal direction.
Meaning you activate a whole constellation of unconscious resources and understandings, all pointing consistently towards the therapeutic outcome. It's like getting all the internal traffic lights to turn green simultaneously. Very little internal conflict or resistance left.
And this connects to broader ideas found in other traditions too, doesn't it? Like the idea of needing to stop the internal dialogue.
It does resonate. By bypassing the usual conscious chatter and analysis, you potentially access different ways of knowing and being, breaking free from the limitations of your everyday map of the world.
It's incredibly powerful stuff. But there's a responsibility that comes with it, isn't there? Bandler and Grinder had a strong warning.
A crucial one. Because these changes can be made largely unconsciously, bypassing the client's normal awareness, it's vital that the therapist ensures integration before they finish working together.
Integration.
The conscious mind needs to be brought back into the loop. The client needs conscious awareness of and access to the changes, the new feelings, the new behaviors. They need to own it consciously.
Otherwise,
Bandler and Grinder used a stark analogy. They said it's like performing an appendectomy with failure to close the incision. The internal work might be done, but without conscious integration, it's unstable, potentially harmful, and unlikely to last.
wow. So the final step is ensuring the conscious and unconscious minds are back in sync, working with the new map together.
Absolutely essential. That integration makes the change robust and truly the client's own.
A powerful reminder of the depth and also the care required. It really makes you think about communication on a whole different level, not just the words, but everything happening underneath.
It really does. The structure, the tone, what's not being said, that's often where the real communication lies. Thanks for joining us at The Deep Dive. Keep exploring, keep learning, and keep shaking things up.